scary movie? What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary
We all live in mad systems.
What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite scary movie?
Greetings and salutations to all of our listeners out there. Hello, new patron Jake. Welcome to the party. So good to see you in the YouTube chat. To all of our dear patrons who are used to doing this weekly in the Discord, hey, hi, we see you. We out here. Don't ever stop making these, y'all rock. Oh, thanks, Danny Cruz. Danny Cruz, I don't believe I've met you before, but it's good to meet you now. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Good evening. Good evening.
It's a great day to have a great day, as they say. We're gonna be talking about a movie that is it is an experience, it's a time, it's a place. For all of you joining us who have not been with us in the live stream before, well, this is a patron perk. Our patrons usually do this with us every Sunday, but this week we're doing their monthly pick. So they get to nominate a movie, then they get to vote on which movie, and then they make us watch this movie. And Binks, we got played.
We got played hard. We definitely did. But you know what? We're going to get into it today, and I hope that everyone is ready to listen.
I think this film hits home for a lot of people.
For a lot, 1 in 9, actually. So
Yeah.
we want to get into the stats.
Is that the actual statistic?
Yep,
But
1 in 9 people.
Is it 3 out of 3 tonight for us?
I think so. Yes, potentially. Probably.
Okay, so we need to split off into groups of other people so that we can be the 1 in 9.
Yeah.
That would be
God,
great.
please.
Spooky Bitch in the chat, welcome. Hi. Good to have you. I see we have Britt there. I think we have all two Chelsea, your names get better every week. And I know that you've had this same name for a couple weeks now, but I just want you to know I see you and I love you. It's great.
The names are always great.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we have a lot of fun in store this evening. So if this is your first live stream and your first live recording, well, you get to see that we do B-side. And B-sides, if you don't know, are for all things B-sides, the point. So it's a nice little pregame chat. Our patrons get the bloopers and the outtakes and all the tangents that we eventually inevitably go on. But we have a fun topic tonight in terms of a little bit of found footage, a little bit of documentarians, a little bit of who would we be on a film set. It's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sounds fun.
The hold music still playing for anyone else. Let me just send that message right on over here.
Just
Make
got a
sure,
little
yeah,
background fun.
yeah, just a little bit. I think if you're listening in Discord, obviously we're not streaming our audio through Discord. You can click the little music button to not hear that weird elevator hold music. That's an option. I like to think that, and actually, not Jake who's in the YouTube chat right now, but other patron Jake, original Jake. Jake made us some fantastic hold music of our own for the live streams, and it's called Billy Saw a Ghost Face at the Bates Motel is the full song because he sampled so many different horror movies. It was great.
That's a very long but very cool title. It sounds like it would be the name of a very indie screamo band.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like it would be a good vibe. The audio file itself was actually called just Hacky Slash, but I think Billy Saw a Ghost Face at the Bates Motel is a way better title.
Way better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It looks like we have most of our regulars in. Nathan, welcome. Ashley, welcome. Ashley, I hope that you're watching the live stream and not listening to the insufferable hold music on Discord. Oh, there it is. Now we know Nathan's listening.
We sure do, Nathan. We sure do.
Indie screamo bands. Didn't read it carefully, Mappy. No, it's all good. Don't worry. Well, friends, I think it's time we get started with our B-side so that we can keep this train moving. We all ready to go? We feeling good? I can kick us off.
Yep,
Sounds
let's
good.
do it.
Fantastic. We will get going then. And I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1.
Stink.
Sync.
The fun thing about going to film school is that you dream of one day making a documentary.
That seems like a pretty solid track, like
Absolutely.
a checkbox type of situation when you go to film school. Makes sense.
Absolutely. I dreamed of making indie horror films, but then documentaries just feel like they really check all the boxes for me in terms of just the things that I enjoy doing. A lot of electronic news gathering in the Navy kind of prepped me for that. But I'll tell you what my serious plan was for a documentary, and then I'll go into the things that I would long to make a documentary on. One of which, so a serious one, I was going to make one on my great-grandfather called A Man of Courage. And it was going to be, so I don't know if I've actually, I know I've told you this, Binks. I don't know if I've told you this, Sean. My great-grandfather was the chief of national police in Cuba just during the revolution and pre-revolution. Very beloved man. It was a time, it was a place. He was arrested without cause and sent to be executed without trial. And so he was killed in a firing squad. And they televised it nationally to send a message. So I always thought, especially since they didn't bury him in a place where we know, they kept exhuming the body and moving it. So my family has this entire time from then and then fleeing Cuba has never known where he's buried to be able to pay their respects and just go back. So that was always a thing that I wanted to do.
Dang. I think I've heard bits and pieces, but I don't think we've actually ever talked about that.
I think that was one of the first things Binks and I talked about the first time we hung out and had sushi. And she made me try a Cuban sushi roll, and I was like, what is this in my mouth?
That's a line.
Hacker slash, no context.
There you go. Yeah, no, I do remember that story. I think it's because obviously we're both Cuban, so we bond over the lovely stories of our parents and our grandparents.
Oh, the shared trauma.
And I mean that in every, I mean that so sarcastically, but but that would be incredible. That'd be a really good documentary. And very well, if you were to do it now, especially, right? Pretty good timing.
Oh, I think so. It'd be a good time. So, okay, serious stuff aside, and I'd love to hear from y'all what you would do. I think it'd be super fun to make documentaries on all this ghosty bullshit, like Robert the Doll in Key West.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Although, for me, I would love to do a documentary on, on the Warrens, but I feel like there's so many of them, right? But I would want it to be me. What the experience would be like as a Latina going into these spooky ass places, because already in and of itself we know that we wouldn't be messing around in those areas, but what if we did?
So we call it fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out.
I think Netflix is
Exactly.
calling.
I'm just saying, could be cool. I don't know.
Ooh, I don't know. I know that I just had a buddy that stayed up in St. Augustine for the weekend, and he did this whole thing where from like midnight to 3 a.m. they lock you in like the old jail up there, and they have like a guy with all of the paranormal equipment, and they were able, like, he came back to work today and said, look, there were doors opening and closing, there were weird sounds, there was lights flickering. He's like, I don't know how they would have staged all this stuff, but he was pretty
Sir.
convinced, or at least pretty excited, that shit went down.
Listen, people have been to space. You think we can't rig that? We can rig that. Actually, we can start a business right now. But let's form the LLC. We can make a little haunted spot, and we can just stage it well enough to get everybody gullible enough to believe in ghosts to come check it out.
It's possible. Listen, some people think we rigged space, so
You know, I was going to say that we put a man on the moon, and I thought, is that too controversial? I don't know. Maybe not. All-Too Chell apparently did that on her honeymoon. I love that, Chell. That's great. That's amazing.
Wait, on your honeymoon, you went to a haunted place and just like stayed there overnight? Like,
that sounds like a
That's-
great honeymoon.
Oh, yeah.
of course you would say that. Of
Oh,
course you would say that.
Honestly, I kind of want Sean and I to have a friendship marriage where we can do a do-over on a honeymoon and we can just like go to haunted places. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
that sounds so great. Go to like all of like the top 10 haunted places in the world.
That's amazing. That reminds me of when we first started the show. It was myself and our original co-host, and we planned a spooky trip where each one of us picked a different haunted house. It was like a haunt, like a Halloween haunt. And none of us knew what the other one was. We just could triangulate. So you had to pick something in this state. One person picks it in this state. One person picks it in another state. The funnest trip I've ever been on. I honestly think we should do this, but for realsies. And by realsies, I mean like asterisk because ghosts aren't real. But yeah,
It sounds fun though. It does sound fun.
absolutely. We went to the one in St. Augustine as part of our trip. Wow, look at that. Chell did it too.
Okay.
Amazing. Absolutely
Wow.
amazing.
St. Augustine, interesting. I've been, and like it didn't really give as much haunted vibes as I think I was told. Like Savannah, for sure, in Georgia, like that. I mean, I guess, like obviously New Orleans, whatever. It's funny because as the paranormal paramour, right? I love this stuff, I really do, but I'm also of sound mind enough to know that I wouldn't want to necessarily throw myself in these situations because, like, I definitely to some extent believe some of this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You're talking about staging these things, and I'm like, you mess around, you're gonna find out for real. Like, you
Let's do it.
pretend that this is all like, fake, and one of these days you're gonna see.
I honestly think, Binks, I mean, we have the means, we have the resources, we can make the time. I think we need to make a little YouTube documentary with you as the talent. We'll call it Paranormal Paramour.
What have I signed up for? What have I done?
I think this is our YouTube channel. I think that's what this is.
Gosh, once
Great.
again, me setting myself up for something ridiculous. Just wait until they find out eventually what we have plans in terms of our episode recordings in the future.
Oh, it's going to be so good. I cannot
Ah.
wait for them to get clued in on that. But I think obviously with this reaching a natural conclusion here of us having to do this, I think we need to consider what our roles would be. Because, it takes a team, it takes a village. I'd like to think, Binks, you give big producer energy. You give big on time and under budget energy.
Thank you. And you are correct. Because I'm already going in with a plan. I'm already going in with an Excel sheet and a budget. I have, roles, delegation figured out, making sure everyone's comfortable. Do we have our snacks before we endeavor in this, shit show?
It's important. It's important.
I want to make sure that everybody is in a safe space, good community. We're going to make sure we're getting it done. I'm probably one of in this particular scenario, because I think we talked in the past, like who would be the first to like die or like who final girl energy, not me, but I would want to say in a documentary type horror setting situation, I think I'm kind of nearing the end, guys. I think I'd be a little more likely to make it to the final girl stage. I don't know. I don't know.
Is it because you have a healthy respect for the ghosts?
I think so. I would have built rapport.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Nice, Sean. Is that what it is?
Is that what it is? You're just gonna
Yes.
build rapport with the ghosts?
Acknowledge,
am.
you know. Hey,
Oh,
ghost, I
gosh.
really love your shoes. Where did you get them? How many
I brought
centuries ago?
snacks.
It really brings out your, wispy ways. I don't know how you would compliment a ghost, right? Like, I guess it depends on if they have like a corporeal form or if they're just like, the apparition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a little hazy figure.
Yeah.
Shape.
A little orb.
You don't know.
Oh wait, let's not get into the orbs because that's a real look. That's a thing. I'm just saying.
It's called a photographic anomaly.
Whatever. Point
Okay.
is, I'm befriending them. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, so we know that Binks is the producer, but who are the rest of us?
Gosh. Okay. I want to say that Sean is not necessarily like either the cameraman or the boomstick. He's the one that's like, he is definitely someone in the film crew that knows what he's doing, but would be the one of sound mind to say, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we going into this, space? Like, why are we going into these, why?
Okay.
You're disagreeing?
I absolutely am, because he absolutely would be fucking head first.
Yeah,
Mac
I
would
think-
go in. Here's the difference, right? Mac would go in first because he's skeptical and doesn't believe it, so he sees no present danger. As long as it wasn't like uncomfortable to go in and an inconvenience, he'd go. But Sean would be for sure leading the way because he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he doesn't believe in it, but also he's intrigued by it.
Okay, no, but hold on. But it's, yes, intrigued. But if we were doing something stupid, he would be the first one to be like, "You guys are fucking stupid."
Well, maybe. If I feel like we're doing something stupid, yes, I'm gonna jump in there. But like, first, do you think Mac would be the one that goes in first with being the skeptic, or do you think he's the one hanging back saying, "No, this is bullshit. You guys can entertain yourselves. Like, I don't believe any of this." Because I feel like, if anything, y'all are pushing me in there first. Like, you're gonna be like, "Yo, go check this out," and I'm gonna be the first one in with that first camera. Like, I don't know what's happening in here. I don't see anything, and then I turn around and something jumps at me. That's what's gonna fucking happen. I could already see it.
I'd also like to point out that typically in a haunted house situation, I always end up going first. So I guess it's just really a tie between the three of us. Because would Mac
Okay, all
want
right.
to go? Like, sure, he wouldn't be enthusiastic about it, right? He wouldn't be like, "Yo, sign me up." But for sure, I think if he felt like, I can just imagine back in the days of having Ryan and Alexis, Mac would volunteer to go first for Ryan and Alexis to help them feel safe. That's the kind of guy Mac is.
That's nice. That's nice.
I would for sure be the camera operator, though. Like, that's all I'm good for. I mean, granted, I do give big producer energy, but I would gladly relinquish that control and that power to Binks. Please, take it. It's yours.
You really just the camera operator though?
Yeah.
Isn't
It's
there, like-
important.
Yeah,
It's
very
important.
important. But is there like a room for like the main
Director
okay,
or
I guess the
photographer.
producer is like
And
you know what I'm saying?
director.
Like you're the one that made the like you're the reason that we're in this freaking place to begin with.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So I'm
Like,
the obnoxious
it was
director
your
that you're all
idea.
going to sue when we all die. Your estates will
Oh,
sue my
well-
estate.
But wait, so if you're running the camera, do we have like a room that has all the gear set up for the audio and stuff? Because I feel like I'm back there getting stoned,
Dude.
and I'm just watching all you guys do dumb shit, and I'm just like, "Oh,
Okay,
I wouldn't go in
here's
there.
the thing, we're
I
not-
wouldn't go in there. Hold on, it'd be like watching a horror movie for me, because I'd be back there, I'd be lighting a joint, I'd be looking at the camera footage as you're walking in there, and you wouldn't be hearing me, but I'd be like, "No, Chris, don't go in there, don't open that, and it'd be so entertaining.
The ghost will get you first. Did you never see Chopping Mall?
Oh, I don't think so.
Hey, in Chopping Mall, the security guard's the first to go. So for sure, that's not where you want to be. Also, Sean, listen, I got gear. I got a little bit of a budget, but we don't have that big of a budget. You're there with a boomstick, boy. You're there. You're
boomstick.
the boom guy.
Oh no! At least
Yeah.
I'm far enough away. I could drop that thing and run the other way.
Or
I love-
keep it as a weapon.
Well,
I love
yeah, but
how we managed to go from Sean being the first one in the room to him not even being on the premises.
you like how that works?
Yeah, of course. Because
Right.
yeah, look at how you finessed your way out of this. somehow, no, we don't even have like a walkie-talkie system. He's like, I don't even want to hear y'all. Y'all are out on your own.
I'm hearing you through the audio signal, through the XLR.
That's
I'm
all you
just
got.
really thinking about what's going to be the most entertaining for me. You know?
Yeah,
Fair.
of course. That's fair.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I really want to make a documentary with both of you now. This is going to be fantastic.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
Max
We're
going to
out
be the
there.
voiceover guy. And then we're good.
Naturally.
Naturally, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I always thought it would be fun, and obviously we're going to get into this as we get into some of the Amityville properties later this year. I always thought it'd be fun to go to places like the Amityville house and do documentaries about those.
That's
It
what I'm
would be.
saying. Yeah, like all the spots that the Warrens have been to or something. Amityville would be really, really cool. The house where like the family that happened, The Conjuring or whatever, like that was what happened to them. I don't know, all that stuff would be great, but I would be so fucking scared. It'd be
That's the point.
dreadful.
But it would
I
be
know.
so like exciting at the same time.
You're really out here going to be our final girl. It's really giving Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought she was annoying, but you're going to be great.
Huh.
I believe in
Well,
you.
that's good at least.
Okay, that's probably a good place to stop.
Okay.
Folks
Nice.
out there in the chat, I hope you enjoyed that. Where would you go to make a documentary? What would your role in the film crew be? Let's see. Nathan called me out on the wispy ways. Joe says doorknobs being turned while home alone. Okay, spooky. It's also happened in my house. Footsteps upstairs while downstairs. Spooky. Also happened in my house. Not on like the level, but like in the patio versus inside the house. Drawers and doors opening, moving hangers in the closet. We had dogs in there or
Yikes.
aware. Oh yeah. Ghost hunting dogs.
Oh no.
Solid. I feel like we gotta do
All of that is a
something.
big no.
Yeah, I feel like we gotta do something special this October with like ghosts and stuff, you know? Little ghosty boys. Little spooky.
It would be cool.
Yeah. Binks,
Gotta
you're so
find the right
skeptical.
spot.
Yes. Binks is like, yes, yes,
You know,
yes, but also no, 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 no.
For sure, because I'm thinking, isn't this exactly why I'm afraid of Insidious? Isn't this is the makings of
Yeah, this is your
exactly
origin
what
story.
happens. Yeah. So like as long as no music is played, that would be great.
I think it's been enough time. I think we're ready. I'm not saying I'm going to play that song, and I'm also not going to take a Bluetooth speaker, and I'm also not going to stage it because I respect you.
Mm.
Thanks. Well, also none of those things happened when it happened. There was no Bluetooth speaker, it was a whole ass car.
Okay,
So, just
well,
saying.
interesting. Okay, spooky. I don't like it. It's a time. It's a place. I think we're going to keep pressing, you know? Let's get away from the ghosts and into, the other forms of possession, like aging and I guess some French serial killer, maybe? Let's see.
Maybe.
Nathan coming through with a meme. I'm befriending them.
That was
Thanks.
amazing.
Oh no.
Nathan
It
never
is me.
misses. Folks,
great.
if you're listening to us live on YouTube and you have not joined the Discord chat, you're missing out on half the conversation because there's some hot memes being created by the second, really artisanal stuff.
And I do want to say, just hold on. I'm superimposed on top of the face of Christina Ricci, who also played Wednesday, who is a character that I'm always referenced as or like described as. So,
Yeah,
I mean, solid. It was meant to be.
absolutely was. You and Devin Sawa, huh?
Iconic.
You can do better, but okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, I think it's time to get started on the first half of our episode. Let me get everything going here. We have our follow-up in line. Do you both have your opening quotes?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I hope it's not.
The same one.
I hope it's not the same one as Sean, because this one's kind of funny.
Just
I'll,
do it different, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm going first, so I
Yeah.
don't want to take. I want to take yours.
Wait, hold on. Let me think of a backup one then. Hold on.
What's the last word in yours?
Is that the funny part?
It's an animal. It's an insect.
It's an insect.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're gonna do. All right, I'll do some. I don't. I have other ones. That wasn't my first choice,
No?
by the way.
Oh,
It is
okay.
in my list.
It is on your
Fantastic.
list.
Look at that. There's plenty to go around. All right, y'all ready to get started?
I am ready.
All right. And as we get this started, folks, you in the chat, dear listeners across the internet, whether you be on YouTube or Discord, let us know. Feel free to participate in the conversation as we have our conversations and work through our questions. Have you ever seen this before? All right. We'll get started here all together in 3, 2, 1.
Sync.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Hacker Slash. If you're joining us again, welcome back. You killed him, didn't you? If this is your first time listening, welcome to the party. We are a horror movie review podcast dedicated to telling you whether a movie is a hack,
A total joke, a waste of time.
or a slash.
Totally killer, pun intended.
We believe horror is for everyone, and as such, we're rating these movies with the perspective we've gained from our varying walks of life and the flavors of fear we fancy most. My name is Chris. I'm your friendly neighborhood slasher enthusiast. This week, I'm joined by the classic horror connoisseur, Sean.
That bitch levitated onto a fucking counter.
I wasn't ready.
Solid.
And the paranormal paramour, Binks.
She puked fucking earthworms.
Y'all really hitting 10 out of 10 on these. That's great.
I'm channeling Sean.
The people have spoken, and our patrons have decided we're covering a 2014 found footage film that has more lying beneath its surface. Before we power up our cameras, though, we have some follow-up.
Let's follow up on our movie. Evil evolves in Evil Dead Rise, folks. A tale of two estranged sisters in a primal battle for survival. Own Evil Dead Rise now on digital. I can't wait to watch this one again from home. I can't wait for it to come out. It was intense. I've been telling everybody I know to watch this movie, and I've been trying to get people to converse with me after they watch this movie. But let's look back to when we covered this movie on its theatrical release night. We clearly loved it and rated it a universal slash, but we wanted to know what your thoughts of the movie were, fellow Deadites. The Spotify poll results are in, and 9.8% of you actually rated this a hack, and that's about 9.8% more than I expected.
Yeah, entirely. That's okay. I mean, I get it, but also I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everyone, right? But then again, it is for everyone. So I don't know. But 90.2, a slash, still a strong result.
You love to see it, honestly. Better judgment on you all. And also, so exciting that now we can do our listener polls and our engagement polls right from the Spotify app. So if you're listening through Spotify, pause the episode, scroll down a little bit in your app. You'll probably have a poll waiting for you to score this movie.
Nice. Well, we also have some listener comments that we want to get to. So Lucas says, I just got back from seeing a late night showing, and I don't think a movie's been able to both make my skin crawl and make me laugh as much as I did in this movie. I thought it was a really great mix of the OG camp humor and remake of gore. I instantly fell in love with the family, and the first thing I said to my friend when it got out was, this movie really said, fuck them kids.
No joke.
Yeah, quite passionately. Incredible. Well, Ashley said, my 2 cents, I just think the Evil Dead franchise as a whole isn't for me, old or new. I like them just fine, but I never loved them. While this one was a good horror movie, it wasn't great for me. But I recognize that it's a me problem because movies with a supernatural, paranormal, possession element never work for me the way I want them to. That being said, it's a slash.
I mean, Ashley, you're in for something tonight, I guess.
Hey, it was still a slash, so
yeah. So even though, you're not into it, still thought it was pretty decent, which is pretty surprising. Typically, Ashley and I are always kind of like on the same vibe in terms of movies we like, but this is a big theme that we don't see eye to eye on. I'm pretty surprised.
Can we be clear that by the same vibe, you mean you both like Repo the Genetic Opera?
And Barbarian, bro.
Yikes.
But what? Not the yikes afterwards. Christ.
Oh gosh. Chelsea says just got out of the movie and initial thought is that it's the first movie in a long time to elicit an actual feeling of horror and a wee bit of stomach churning from me. I think I'll stick to the older Evil Dead movies though, as the gore in those are a bit easier to stomach for me. Yeah, I guess. In summation, this movie was, and I mean this in the absolute best way possible, was very hard for me to sit through.
Wow. Okay. You know what? This is a really interesting one because it's not quite as intense as the gore and the brutality of the 2013 Evil Dead, in my opinion. But also, for
True.
some reason, the gore and the effects, maybe it's just because of all that shit going in Bruce Campbell's mouth. I find that harder to sit through. It really is like testing my gag reflex at any step of the any step of the way.
I think it's because the campiness comes out a lot more with the Bruce Campbell ones. So like, even though it's super gory, right, you get all of that, and there's some nasty stuff that can really trigger whether you have a gag reflex or whatever. It's just the campiness makes you, I guess, stomach it better.
It's
Yeah.
giving Dead Alive in a gross way, but that's fine.
Yikes. Well, in terms of Brittany, she says, wow, finally saw this last night. One of the scariest movies I've seen in a long time. So terrifying, truly haunting. I'm so glad you guys picked up that Ellie looked exactly like Sally closer to the beginning of the film. It called that out in the theater. As a matter of fact, I couldn't stop making quiet comments to myself, whether it was excitement from the many Easter eggs and nods to other films or utter fear from what I was watching. Same, honestly. I was slapping my legs, kicking in the air, leaning all the way forward in my seat. I was everywhere because the tension I felt made me move as a way of coping with the scares.
Well, I
That's funny.
love this description because I feel like I'm there with her right now. Keep going.
Right?
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It's clearly a slash and the best Evil Dead movie, surpassing all the rest. Wow, that's a strong
Nice.
statement.
Honestly,
But
I'm
kind of
there.
here for it. Yeah, me and Chris are like, but we agree.
Yeah.
P.S. I might be in love with Beth, and I doubt that I'm alone. She's giving me all the Clea Duvall vibes. Wow,
Clea
I
Duvall?
can't say that name for for the life of me.
Nice.
Nice, but that's awesome.
No, Ellie also kind of resembles Olivia Wilde, just a little bit.
For
In
sure.
fact, when I first saw the trailer, I had to take a second look and be like, wait, is that? No, it's not.
I'm going to have to really sit there and ponder that. And I know that we talked about this in the Evil Dead Rise episode, but obviously like the comparison to her and Jack, not Jack, to her and Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. And then as soon as Bing started reading that comment, I just immediately started singing in my head Sally's song. It's a good vibe.
Nice.
Well, clearly the people love this movie, and all of you watching now, listening now, we've got some more up our sleeves. If you've been waiting to experience the terror from your own living room, well, then there's no time like the present, and we want to help make that happen. We've actually got an exciting opportunity for you to win this horrifying masterpiece on digital, and all you have to do is help spread the word, the good word of Hacker Slash. Now, your support not only helps us grow, but it also helps attract new listeners to our community of horror enthusiasts and serves as social proof that, we've got a good little thing going on here. So for the first time in our show's existence, and I say that very specifically because I've always been not about doing this until I felt like we're proud and ready to really share the quality of the show where it is right now. We're asking for you to leave a rating and review in your podcast app and share your thoughts about our show. Then you're going to visit hackerslash.live/review to submit a screenshot of your review. That link is also in the episode's description and show notes. And by submitting a screenshot of your review, you're actually going to be automatically entered for a chance to win Evil Dead Rise on digital, allowing you to experience this cheese-grating story in the cozy sanctuary of your own home, where all the Deadites are not, hopefully.
Hopefully not.
That is awesome. Spooktacular.
Absolutely. So again, check the description, check the link in the show notes, check it out. You want this movie. I promise you. It's that good. 98.9% 90.8. Nope. Yeah, it was 90.8% of people also agree.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really exciting. And listen, we have a new patron, Jake. Welcome. You can take advantage of this too. So we're excited to have you as part of the family. Welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do it, Jake.
And that's our follow up.
Well, this week we're discussing another type of familial possession film. In 2014, Adam Robitel brought us a found footage horror film that captured the struggle of an elderly woman and the terror that lurked beneath. In an effort to raise awareness and document the reality of a merciless disease, a daring film crew embarked on a project that would test the boundaries of their resolve and understanding. Little did they know, their journey would lead them down a path far more sinister and horrifying than they could have ever imagined. As the cruel progression of aging parents and Alzheimer's tugs at the viewer's heartstrings, we're also confronted with the true terror that lies within the depths of the human experience. Now, this film reminds us that the most terrifying monster isn't always a masked villain, but rather the ruthless passage of time and the diseases that accompany it. And this week, after winning 45% of the overall patron vote, we're talking about The Taking of Deborah Logan.
So this movie was nominated by our patron, Chelsea. She said, "This movie takes the found footage movie to a new level. The entire film has multiple levels of horror and anxiety that keep the watcher on edge, second-guessing what you see, think. Not to mention, the movie has some gnarly imagery that will stick with you long after the film has ended."
Well, let me tell you, this movie certainly has the potential to stick with us tonight. I know it hits close to home for many of us, so let's dive right in. Who's seen this one before?
I have never seen this movie before,
Oh, wow.
but I did mention it to a few of my friends, and their immediate response was, "That movie is very intense." But the thing is, like, at this point, people say that to me, and I'm like, guys, I'm on a horror movie review podcast. Like, is it intense? You know, like I've entered that level at this point with the amount of horror movies I've watched just in the last couple months. So I didn't take it too seriously, but I did not know a single thing about this movie. Never seen it before, went into it very blindly, friends.
Yeah, that's fair. Intense is a good choice of words for sure. I remember watching this one a while back. It's been a long time. But it was one of those movies that just kept appearing as I scrolled through trying to find something to watch. And I do remember this one being genuinely creepy and a really heavy subject.
Yeah, see, it's really interesting that you go with the description of the word intense and thinking about even just listening to the nominations that we've gotten, even reading over some of the discussion that we've had in the forum. I saw this movie when it first came out, and it did not really faze me in any way whatsoever. I didn't dislike it, to be clear, but as we started having all these conversations, I'm like, what am I not remembering about this movie? Because I remember like the key image that I think a lot of us do from the third act of the film, but nothing else really stood out to me. And really, I think it's because it was around a time when I was binging exorcism and possession movies. So there are a couple moments that, again, were burned into my memory, but it never stood out beyond just being within that grouping, right? I think I binged this in the same weekend that I binged a lot of the Amityville horror movies, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, so many other things. And going into it now and then just revisiting what the subject matter is, I was actually pretty nervous going into this, particularly because there's a lot of stuff going on with my own grandmother right now, and I have not been good at processing it by any stretch of the imagination. So I was expecting for the horror elements to be semi-lackluster, but for the emotional context to really overwhelm this movie for me because of that.
Yeah, definitely. Remember, like this one had been a long time since I'd actually watched it. So revisiting this or going into revisiting this rather, like I'm expecting this one to be creepy because that's what I remember from it. I remember I'm expecting it to build the creepiness from scene to scene. Like it's found footage. So I don't exactly remember, but I'm expecting or maybe hoping rather that the found footage of it all really helps to build that intensity. And as I said before, like this is a very heavy subject, and for some, like I would really expect this to feel horrifically close to home in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, a lot of my friends had said, hey, this movie's intense. One of them apparently warned me about it pertaining to Alzheimer's. And it honestly must have gone right over my head because I was not expecting it to be about that at all. Like, I didn't even read the description of this movie before watching it, nothing. I guess maybe I saw the cover and thought, okay, typical, like, older woman maybe being possessed type of thing. There's a few films out there that have covered that, right? So wasn't expecting it to be about Alzheimer's. And even then, once I knew that, I expected it to not get very deep or sentimental with it since it was like a found footage possession film. I thought we were going to just dive right into that and have the Alzheimer's component be extremely small in terms of the plot, just dive right into the creepy behavior. Um, but let me tell you right off the bat, I had high hopes about this not getting the feels out of me. And I was brought back to reality so fast and so strong. Like, the thing about this movie and my process of watching it was so difficult for me. I had to pause it several times. The whole time I was feeling like, you know, I was watching something that was deeply personal. Even the gore, the brutality of it was very startling for me. And to be very honest, friends, the next day I was trying to gather my notes for this movie and it still made me extremely anxious. I was not doing very well. I mean, this was like an extremely uncomfortable film that is going to stay with me for a while and brought out feelings that typically I like. I want to feel a range of things, right? But this time around, not the stuff I was wanting to come out. This was a deep shadow work type shit.
Honestly, Binks, I am so sorry that I didn't give you warning about this movie. I mean, granted, I underestimated it from my own memory, but also I thought you had seen this before. For some reason, maybe it was when you were pulling movies for the nominations for the month. I was like, oh, okay, she's seen this. I really am disappointed in myself for not warning you.
No, and it's fine because my friends warned me. Like, one of my friends specifically, she said, and I texted her this morning about it. She was like, "Hey, how did you do watching the movie?" And I was like, "Lucy, I not well." And
I
she's
was
like,
straight
"Well,
up not having a good time, bro.
not a great time. I paused it like 8 times."
Mhm.
And even when I was pulling the nominations, I mean, when you think about it, in the nomination, it doesn't mention anything about it. So I just put it in the list, right? Like, just doing my job. Didn't think whatsoever that this was going to cover that. And I got to say, like, of course, you're kind of get a little bit curious when you're watching some of these films and you'll read the description. Why it is that I didn't even think to read the description is kind of creepy a little bit for me. I don't know, but it is what it is.
You know what? I hope that when we get to the other side of this, we can think that maybe this is an important step in the healing process. I don't know. It was for me just a little bit, but let me tell you, I felt real sad watching this movie. So much so that I think I couldn't really even focus a lot on the horror elements. So I have plenty of things to say about this movie. And let me tell you, I'm a found footage fiend. I love a good found footage movie. I wouldn't say a guilty pleasure. It's just a straight up pleasure. I'm not apologetic about it in any way. But I think I was so distracted from the other horror components because of just the season that I'm in right now with what's going on with my own grandmother. It was a challenge to get through. But I think what was refreshing was looking back and not realizing how much gold there was scattered throughout the movie in terms of the cast and the performances that we get. I was like, wow, I'm really disappointed in myself for not appreciating this more.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm a fan of found footage films. I think there's some good ones, there's some bad ones. I think that this one specifically felt like found footage in some moments, and in others it didn't at all to me. Um, and you know, I can only imagine what both of you felt watching this movie right now in where you are in your lives, because for me, like, this one also hit close to home, but not in the same ways, right? Like, it's like I I remember being exposed to a lot of these types of things that are happening in this movie as a kid, right? So like I went out to visit my dad for a summer. He was living with his girlfriend. his mom or his girlfriend's mom was in early to mid stages of Alzheimer's, and I remember just like weird things, like just being in the bathroom and then being like attacked in the bathroom because she didn't know or didn't remember who I was and things like that. And it is like, so for me, right, like as a kid and thinking to those memories, these scenes really hit close to home, but also provided an extra like scary factor for me, if you will, right?
Mm.
I went through like on my mom's side, my great grandfather and my great grandmother, they both died from Alzheimer's, which is scary to think about. But again, I went through all these a long time ago as a kid, and I didn't process it the same as I would now in life. So I cannot even imagine the feelings that the both of you had watching the film now.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes sense. It's interesting how like time kind of creates a different viewing experience, right? Because I even thought to myself, if I were to watch this movie maybe 10 years from now, right? Or 15 years from now, maybe it obviously wouldn't hit as strongly, right? And so that's kind of like you know, you're now watching this as an adult, still having had that experience, but you've had time to kind of create this buffer of relatability. And I think that's kind of what surprised me so much about this film. It's like, I guess I didn't expect it to be so brutal and how gory it was. And is it gory? I don't know. Like it was intense in some of the things that it did.
It's
right?
selective and intentional.
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't expecting it because usually with possession films, it's very like sometimes it's a little bit of bodily horror, a little bit, right? It's like a bodily gore, the vomiting, the whole thing. And I'm like used to that. It's extreme. There were some other things that happened that I was like, holy shit. However, that's the same stuff that someone with Alzheimer's is fully capable of doing to themselves. And that's what really was drawing to me. It was so incredibly relatable. And so for myself, Alzheimer's is like very prominent in my family. The sorority that I'm a part of specifically raises funds for Alzheimer's research. So it's a big part of my life. And when you think about it, 1 in 9 people over the age of 65 have Alzheimer's. And so we were joking about it before we, started about like how we were even going to entertain, our B-sides and like our sponsors, all these things, because it's like all 3 of us have been affected by Alzheimer's. I'm sure even, if you're listening, you probably know someone that has Alzheimer's. So the likelihood of you watching this film is going to be the unique experience of all of us having watched it, having known someone and suffering and being like, I don't know, sad and relating to this movie in a different way. Because I think horror always tries to bring in the real experiences of life and like the lived experiences of situations that are very difficult. But Alzheimer's was pretty unique to me. So I was like, wow, not expecting it at all.
And here's the thing, though, like even knowing that's part of the movie, it's surprising to me how well it balances it without being exploitative and without completely losing it in the later stages of the movie. You really have this work of art that in some ways hooks you in and balances being a spooky movie that can actually just scare people while also having you like emotionally invested in the characters, what's going on. And it's almost as if the horror elements become secondary, but it's still a successful movie in spite of that. And it's just a really tough balance, right? Like sometimes you have that description of a movie and you're like, oh, this is more of a drama. Oh, this is more of a thriller. But this does distinctly feel like a horror movie. And I'm really surprised at myself. We think about Deborah Logan and how she comes through in this movie. Good old Debbie, a bad bee in her own right. I can't believe the memory of her was lost on me when I watched X and Pearl.
Wow. Yeah.
The entire time.
The connection is strong. Another one that I thought, I don't know if you guys have seen like the Visitors, I think, or is The Visit, something like that. It's another one. Well, obviously
The
like
grandparents.
the elderly, right? The grandparents as well, right? So, but in particular,
Oh,
Pearl
yeah.
and X, that's I mean, literally.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's rough out in these streets with the elderly. I'm not
The
ready.
elderly.
I thought I
Listen,
was ready, but I wasn't.
I'm telling you, man, elderly people in horror movies adds an extra layer of creepiness. And
Oh,
I was surprised that this felt as creepy as it did. I can't really tell if it was the found footage aspect of it all or if it was really just Jill Larson's performance that made it as frightening as it was because spectacular.
Come on, Deb.
So good. So good. I will say I was a little disappointed in the direction that the plot went in the second or the third act of the film. And I'll dive into that later because I don't want to reveal anything right now. But yeah, overall, super, super creepy, great performances. Didn't like where it ended with the plot story and all of that. But I was surprised by the acting. The performances were so solid.
they were, but a disappointment for me, if anything, was that maybe I was so hooked and entranced by Deborah Logan and Sarah, the main characters,
Mhm.
that the acting of the supporting characters was good, but they were a little bit lost on me. Like at times I was forgetting like what they were up to or what was going on. The things that some of the quotes or the things that they said, like I was just so I don't know, maybe impacted by Deborah Logan specifically that they were a little bit lost on me. So it could be that the movie was just so intense overall that it's just that's what's gonna happen. And it says a lot about the movie that despite the fact that the supporting characters didn't really stand out so much to me, I still thought the movie was really good, right? So if anything, I would have maybe wanted a bit more of a balance.
And this is so interesting to me. And maybe it's because of coming from that like filmmaking perspective and that background. I found this to be one of the most tolerable examples of a filmmaking documentary crew in a horror movie. Because sometimes it's rough out in these streets, bro. Diary of the Dead, awful. Like, not a bad movie. It's entertaining, but some of the times the depiction of things, like I'm thinking about like Urban Legend Final Cut. Like, you have these examples of people who are just out here doing a job, crafting a narrative story. I actually really liked most of the supporting characters. There's one in particular who I could do without him. I was happy when this person was no longer a necessity for the rest of the movie. But even then, I thought their performances were still strong. They just didn't distract or detract from, they didn't pull focus. Ironically, someone's job is literally to pull focus. That is their existence for being on this, and they still didn't pull focus from the rest of the cast. But let me just tell you this. When I'm asked what my biggest fear is, right, I get some laughs or people say I'm dramatic or a little intense because I say, truly, it is the crippling march of time and mortality, and the fact that as the youngest in my family, if all goes as like Mother Nature intends, right, technically I should outlive all those closest to me in my immediate family. That terrifies me to no end. And I think I see what my mom is going through right now with her mom, and I'm just like, I cannot even. I truly cannot. And this movie, I'm just going to say it gives me vindication. There it is. There are enough jump scares that I think would spook the average person. And for being a found footage film, I do think it's still watchable enough to preserve the integrity of those scares. But this is a good blend of, it's got the emotional scares for those of you who need it, but it's also just got the spooky scares for those of you who don't.
Without a doubt. In terms of spooky scares, Joe Larson is frightening beyond belief. Like, we've got another one, folks. I said this in Evil Dead Rise about Alyssa Sutherland, and I'm going to say it about this actress in Deborah Logan. She was scary for sure. And it's like you said earlier, Sean, it's the elderly, and they always add this creepiness, which is kind of why I expected this movie to just dive into that. But like you said, Chris, it's the emotional fear, right, of Alzheimer's, of that, the inevitable in terms of what that disease can do. But let's get into just like the sheer fact that there are some frightening things in the dark. There are some moments where I was holding on for dear life. I looked away from the screen because I was scared, not because I was just getting emotionally like overwhelmed. No, there were some moments where I outright like held on to my own body because I was so scared.
To my own body.
Were you giving Britt watching Evil Dead Rise in the theater?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. all of those things, the legs in the air. Yeah. just
Now I'm
That's
starting to
cool.
think that Brit is your burner account. That's what it is.
maybe.
Oh, dang.
Look,
This was
I'm
you
in the
talking
chat typing
about.
right now.
Yeah, this was you talking about Deborah Logan. Got it.
Oh my gosh. Look, I don't know any different way to say it, but you both are right. Like, this one feels a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie, it genuinely creeped me out a few times. There's a couple of decent jump scares, but we've been talking about it. What really adds to the fright factor in this film is Deborah Logan herself. We said it again. I've said it. Old people can be so creepy. Then when you see old people doing strange shit, unnerving shit, it really is effective. And they played off of this so well. But really, the heavy undertones of this movie, really, that hits home is Alzheimer's disease as a whole is pretty fucking scary. It really is. It's sad. It's sad. It's scary to think about going through it potentially, because you never know. It's scary and sad to think about others going through it, especially ones that you love. Like, it's hard. It's hard,
Right.
but it is a scary film for a number of different reasons.
And let me tell you, I think that's exactly what makes this so different from other A, horror films, B, found footage films, C, found footage horror films, all of the above, right? This is a pretty different take because it does so without going over the top in any particular direction. Sure, it's not perfect. This movie is imperfect and it has some things that for sure could have been better, but this isn't your average found footage movie and it also isn't your run-of-the-mill possession movie.
No, not at all. I think integrating Alzheimer's into this subgenre was a pretty bold move to make because I just said it. There's plenty of horror movies like The Visit, like X, where the main, fear or villain, I guess, to some extent, is an elderly character. And when it comes to that, you already automatically you can feel sense of frailty, sense of empathy a little bit because you think of your grandparents or you think of yourself and the inevitable way of life that we're all going to age and be in those positions. But then you add on a very, very prominent disease that affects millions of people. And it's just like, you don't see that. I wasn't expecting it because it's something so sensitive, right? Like, because it is so prevalent in our world, especially, to people our age, that we have to see now, especially us, not to get too deep or sad about it, but let's be honest, our parents are getting old, and we're talking about our grandparents, but like, our parents are at the threshold, at least mine are about to enter the threshold where they could be diagnosed or are more likely to be diagnosed with this disease. At least that's the fear that I live every day. And I'm like, shit, you have the audacity and the nerve, the gall to make this like the big bad in the movie, while also making it about a possession thing, right? Like, in this demonic nature. I've just never seen something like that. So originality for sure. I mean, honestly, they got some balls on them to do this, but just got to say it like that. but it is original. It is original without a doubt.
Debbie really said, hold my beer. Let me show you a horror movie that can do both.
Yeah.
For sure. 1,000%.
It's interesting because, yes, on one end of the spectrum, it does feel fresh. It does feel original because of the added layer of kind of making you feel or question, like, is this possession? Is this disease? We don't know, right? But on the other end, it does really feel like something in the realm of The Exorcist meets Paranormal Activity, meets The Blair Witch Project. So there are a lot of undertones of all of those films, or influence from a lot of those films, right? But they did such a good job in allowing you to stay entertained throughout the movie that you don't even get caught up thinking about all of that until you're reflecting afterwards, right? Unless I'm doing this podcast trying to review it, I enjoyed the film. Like, I think it was very fresh. Like, it felt original. If you can take, like, I know we sit here and we talk about original films, like, are they original? Are they not? Like, at this point in life, you're going to make a film. It's going to have some kind of influence from another film. It's the same with music and art and all these different things, right? So it's what you do with that influence and how you create it. And I think that this movie did a really good job of taking a lot of influence from a lot of different films and making it its own.
Yeah, but let me tell you where it didn't do a very good job, and that was the ending. It's interesting for me because it's a little bit of a mixed bag, right? It has some intensity that I think is arguably some of the best parts of the movie, but then there's this element of lore and plot that really killed the momentum for me. It felt like an entirely different movie slapped on to the end, and that sounds harsh. That sounds way worse than it actually is. It's largely good, but it certainly wasn't my favorite part of the movie overall.
Yeah, that's fair. I personally was not a huge fan of the ending, or at least the direction it went. Anyways, I think that less is more here for sure, and that opportunity was lost when they went down the path that they did, because the reveal in the third act really felt forced, and it just almost lost me a little bit.
Hmm. Interesting. I think for me, when I was watching the ending, I felt most. Period. The emotions were heightened. I was so tense. I was holding on to myself, like I said earlier, but like now I was gripping for dear life. I watched it with a friend of mine, and I was like, I thought I was gonna dig my nails into his skin. Poor guy, because I was so scared. And then it gets to a point where you finally get to breathe, and it's almost like if you're on a roller coaster, right? Where you're just like you're going on a very deep dive. You're feeling that pit of your stomach where it hurts so much. You're like so scared, and then when you finally hit the ground, you're kind of slowed down. It happens so quick. You're already at the loading dock, or whatever you want to call it, right? Like that's kind of what it felt like for me in the ending. So I enjoyed it because I think it was a lot all at once. However, something you said, Chris, in terms of the lore, now I'm thinking about it a bit more. Yeah, it was not necessarily the best execution of that. So I'm very interested when we dive into it, into the spoiler zone, right? Like diving into that a bit more and hearing more of your thoughts for sure.
Oh, I certainly can't wait to unpack it, and I want to get closer to those ratings so we can do that. But first, Sean, how would you describe the gore score?
Yeah, so I mean, we do see a few scenes throughout the movie that are pretty gruesome. And, to your point, Binks, right? You felt like, was this gory? Was it not gory? And Chris, you're saying that it was intentional when it was gory. And I think those are two really great sentiments, right? I think that yes, there was intentional moments that were meant to be gory to give you the shock factor, but overall, nothing that would get this film outside of like a low to medium low gore score.
There you go with that medium rare again.
I like a good medium rare.
And what about the animal report?
So, in terms of my typical animal report, we are safe. However, I just want to be specific and give a little trigger warning, though. In this particular animal report, snakes are definitely not safe in this film.
So if you're a Slytherin, beware.
Yikes.
Be very
Oh
aware.
no.
Let's go ahead and get into our ratings then. The Taking of Deborah Logan from 2014, as nominated and selected by our patrons. Was it a hack or a slash?
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. This movie was a tough as hell watch for me. Okay. And that it took me so by surprise because I typically enjoy found footage films. There are a few out there that, definitely have scared me before, but for the most part, they're just fun watches and I don't think much of it. Right. And as blind as I went into this, I was not expecting to project so much of my own life experience onto this film in particular. And despite its supernatural and possession subgenre, I need everyone to listen to me very clearly. Do not underestimate how under the skin and real this movie will make you feel, especially if you are close to your grandparents or the elderly in general, and even more so if you know someone with Alzheimer's. I'm going to say that now, and I can't reiterate it enough, okay? Um, However, even though the movie was difficult and unsettling in a unique way for me, but clearly not so unique, I guess, from what we've shared so far, it can't be overlooked how fun and successful it was in evoking a rise out of me, right? And how successful it was in telling this story in particular, and using Alzheimer's in horror, in a very intentional, very real way, nothing of mockery whatsoever, in my opinion. Um, Now there are some disappointments, and I shared one. It's bound to happen, but this movie is one that will get you talking at the end of the day for a good while afterwards. And so for that, I am giving it a slash.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, look, I like paranormal or supernatural films, possession movies. I like found footage films. I'm a big fan of the Blair Witch Project, which I know is for the most part an unpopular statement, but I do. And I think that this film took pieces from Paranormal Activity, from Blair Witch, and developed its own pretty entertaining film. It really created some genuinely creepy moments. And I got to tell you, watching this in the dark at midnight alone, it was one of those movies that made me want to keep the lights on afterwards. And for that, this one is a slash.
I think you both have said and made this movie's case very eloquently. When I think about what it takes to be a slash for me, I either need to have a real fun time or I need to have a real bad time in terms of feeling things, right? Or like the intensity of that. And thankfully, this movie made me feel a lot, and not in a great way, but in a way that I needed to feel, in a way that was very cathartic. And I was joking with Binks. I was like, bro, we got played by the patrons this week, but I think the patrons knew secretly what I needed to have a little bit of a good cry session, because this movie made me feel things, and it reminded me of the experience that I had, that really unexpected, that really, whoa, what is this that I've had tucked away in this box in my mind, not acknowledging, not feeling, not processing for a little while, like a little hoarder of feelings. And I think I had that tucked away when I was watching His House. And His House was another one that really hit me hard and brought back and unearthed so many memories that I didn't realize I had. Except this is helping me more so confront the reality that I'm currently in. And you know what? Good on you, Chris Rojas from 2014. I'm so happy that you did not have the burden of having to acknowledge what this movie's actually about. But Chris Rojas of 2023 certainly does. And I think for a movie to be able to meet you in that moment is pretty special. And for that, it's a slash. Now, with that, The Taking of Deborah Logan from 2014 is a universal slash. Don't know that I expected that, but you can find this movie streaming for free online. So check the link in our show notes to find where you can find it right now. Then check it out, grab a box of tissues if you need, and join us in the second half so we can unpack our trauma together. We'll see you in a bit. We did it.
Nice.
Look at
How
that.
funny. Did not expect. Well, I did expect Universal Slash, actually. I figured, this is going to be rough, but you can't negate
We're doing
it
pretty
was a-
well, I think we're doing pretty well, Banks.
a good time. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing better now. Was not.
Yeah,
Yesterday.
eventually we'll get to the point where we can discuss how many times we both paused the movie.
Oh, I think I already said it. Did I say it out loud? I don't even remember anymore. I
Yeah,
think
You know,
I
you
did.
did we quantify it? Who knows? Well, friends, okay. So for all y'all in the chat, what were your scores? I think I'm inferring a lot of slashes. I don't know if Jake and Danny on YouTube are still with us. Want to know how y'all scored the movie while we
Yeah,
prepare our
let us know.
sponsor. I need to actually pencil in the scores on our database. And honestly, Banks, when you set up our Notion database and you picked the GIF for this movie, how could you have expected what it's about?
What do you mean? Like when I read the description?
No, like when you set this up in Notion and you picked the GIF
Yeah.
when it won.
Oh my
When
god!
you just think
yeah.
of that, like how could you have had any reasonable moment to expect what it's about?
No, I full on just thought that this was like a sick older woman and her daughter. You know what I mean? Like, because there were a few gifs that came up, so I saw clearly another, like the daughter. I didn't know that it was the daughter, but from what I saw, it kind of looked that way. I just thought she was like a sick older woman, and clearly, doing some crazy things with her jaw.
Love that. You know what? See, TMJ, my jaw can't open that wide. It'd be locked in that position forever. Shout out to our.
I almost-
You almost put it in no context.
No, I was gonna say yes. Come on. I had to.
Shout
I
out
mean,
to
I
our
will probably.
shout out to our patron in the chat who says the living room is tremendo dark. Look at us on a TV. Nice.
That's a cool vibe.
Yeah, it is a good
Whoa.
vibe. Get some red hue lights behind that TV, and you got a hacker/party.
It was dark. Yeah. Nice.
Empathetic and sympathetic / I love that for you, Joe. All right, who is going to be reading our sponsor?
Ooh.
It's giving Sean
Let's pull
since it
it
was your idea, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be doing my B reel while we're live video,
Okay.
actually. So please hold. Everyone, prepare yourselves.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Hello. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Nothing like a B reel on
Love that.
live recording, huh?
So good.
So
So
good.
good.
Nothing realer than that.
Nothing realer than that. All right. Let's
Shar
look
says,
at
this movie, despite the letdown of the third act, it unraveled for me a lot, and then the CGI really took me out of it. I get that. It was really giving Jafar when Jafar becomes a snake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
By the way, also to our dear friends in the YouTube stream, if you have not been part of a live recording, then maybe it hasn't dawned on you that we record both halves of the episode at once. So if you haven't seen this movie and don't want to be spoiled, as much as we hate to lose you, we understand if you leave. Not the Disney reference, always the Disney reference. So / but make it soft. Suavemente. Suavemente / me. For the culture, yeah.
That's the remix.
All right. So we have Paranormal Panorama.
Yeah. There's
is
a
a
tongue
great choice
twister
of
in here
words.
somewhere.
It was a holy water
Complementary
spritzer.
possession prevention pendant.
That's good. No one reads better than
gonna
you,
give it a
Sean.
shot.
You're so literate.
Oh, is it? Oh gosh.
Was that a slight? Did I
No.
miss that?
I don't
No,
know.
I was being genuine. I mean, both of y'all really slayed those listener comments, so great job. I'd
I
be
don't know.
slaying
At one point,
my
I
own
stumbled.
notes.
I thought I was like making up words.
And then I saw that it was a typo. I'm so sorry for not correcting it.
Why do you? You're like, it's my fault.
I'm not a Virgo. I should have. If I was a Virgo, it would have been perfect. I'm a Capricorn,
You
so
were
I'm near
acting like a
perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were acting like a Virgo there for a second.
Oh,
But
Just a
my
little bit.
gosh,
You're
so
rubbing
good.
off on me.
So
You and Sean both are rubbing off on me.
Nice.
nice.
Great.
Gross.
All right. Let's give this a shot. This episode of Hacker Slash is brought to you by Paranormal Panorama. Are you a ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, or exorcist looking to upgrade your supernatural toolkit? Look no further. Paranormal Panorama is your one-stop shop for all your otherworldly gear needs. From advanced spectral imaging technology to state-of-the-art EVP recorders, Paranormal Panorama has everything you need to document the world of the unknown, including gear to tackle demonic possessions head-on. But our catalog doesn't stop at high-quality cameras and recorders. Paranormal Panorama also offers a wide range of accessories and gadgets to enhance your ghostly encounters and demon-busting adventures. Whether you need an EMF meter to track down elusive spirits, a ghostly gas detector to differentiate between supernatural forces and Dave's questionable digestive issues, or a holy water spritzer to fend off pesky demons, we've got you covered. And if you use promo code HackerSlash at checkout, you'll receive a spooktacular 20% discount on your first purchase, plus a complimentary possession prevention pendant to keep demonic forces at bay while you investigate the unknown. Step into the mysterious world of supernatural sleuthing with a confidence. Step into the mysterious world of supernatural sleuthing with confidence and style. Only at Paranormal Panorama. Unravel the unknown, battle demonic possessions, and never be left wondering, was that a ghost or just Dave passing gas? Paranormal Panorama is not responsible for any unintended summonings, hauntings, or supernatural consequences resulting from the use of our products. Please investigate and exercise responsibly. Oh, God.
Amazing. Well done. Honestly, so good. So great. Sean, I was really feeling your door-to-door sales days.
Nice. Nice.
But wait, have we got a deal for you?
My God.
There's
Oh,
more
gosh.
for the low, low price of
more.
$6.99.
But wait, there's more.
Imas.
Aw.
I have a question. Actually, what
Imas.
is the okay? In South Florida, there's CVS and then there's some CVS Imas, and I always wonder what is the Imas. Educate me.
don't-
What do you mean?
There's CVS, and then there are CVSs that say CVS Imas, as if to imply
Well, you're
there's
wanting to know
more.
why they're called IMAS?
Yes, and what
Give
is
me
the
a second.
Imas?
I think I know why, but I want to fact check myself. Hold
Hello,
on.
Rob. Welcome to the party. You are joining us in our Discord chat. If you're watching on YouTube and are not in the Discord chat, you're missing out, but that's cool. Rob, welcome. You didn't miss the whole thing. You only missed that we rated it a universal slash. It's video. Welcome. Yes. A lot of cathartic emotional unpacking. You know, I think we got a review recently that gave us like 1 star or 2 stars, and it said too much overthinking horror. And to you, sir, I say, how could you look at this movie and not? That's just me. Live Mas CVS
Nice.
attached to Taco Bell.
Yeah, okay.
Jesus.
So I was right. It's just a marketing tactic to appeal more to Hispanic customers.
It's just marketing.
I
That's
just wanted
it?
to make sure. Yeah, I thought if I was incorrect, I would have guessed that it's because they in store they have like more, like Hispanic items, but like our crackers and you know how we are. But
Like
Well,
our
we have
Little
it.
crackers.
galletas.
they have these they're called craqueñas and they're the best
Yeah.
crackers. Okay, and then there's also the ones in the green tin that are
Listen,
obviously
if
Okay,
pivotal.
those are
If
the
I had
ones.
crackers called craqueñas, I would fucking want them too.
Yeah. Okay,
know?
listen, the ones in the green
You
tin.
should.
It sounds better than crackers.
The,
For sure.
the ones in the green tin are famously the only ones you can eat when you're sick. It's Judge
Okay.
Judy or Maury or a little bit of Jerry Springer, but mostly Judge Judy, Vicks Vaporub, ginger ale, and then the green tin of crackers.
Nice.
1,000%. And then when you eat all the crackers, you have to save the tin because it's now going to be where your grandmother's going to put extra fabric that she needs stored.
Yeah. Imas.
To repair your clothes. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Ima.
know what?
It's a tin of Imas.
Binks, they got me, gal.
Yeah,
Here I am
nice.
advertising for them now. CVS Imas. They got me
Look
in
at
my
that.
curiosity. It was piqued. Well, do we need a moment to hydrate?
I will take a moment to go
Okay.
to the restroom.
So, folks, we're going to take a very, very quick break, but we will be right back. And that's not like a cheap, we'll be right back and then die in a horror movie. We'll just be right
I'll
back.
be right back.
Ah! All right, welcome back. We have returned from our hydration. Look at us. You may notice that our skin looks clearer drinking water.
Ready to go.
Yeah, we're giving our
No.
best us.
Yeah, not me that I haven't moved a single muscle, but I'm like hydrated, amazing, with my definitely empty venti
Frappuccino.
frappuccino.
You did get your dumpling on.
I did get my dumpling on. You're right.
I had a little bit of water and then I got some Arizona iced tea.
Spectacular.
Well, I've just been drinking Simpler Times lager
Delicious.
and a little Liquid Death to stay semi-hydrated.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say. I mean, that's just hydration too.
Yeah.
You know?
It's good. It's good.
It's a hydration combo.
Not me dying. 1 second.
Not hydrated enough, bro.
Or some might say too hydrated.
No,
No?
no one's saying that.
Okay.
No one.
All right. Well,
No
here we are.
single soul.
Welcome back, folks. So good to have you. For those of you who have just joined us, you're just in time for the spoiler zone. Hope you've seen this movie. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a good time. You'll hear a recap in a second of our scores, but we hope that you're ready to have some fun. And again, if you are just joining us and you missed it, then you missed the announcement of our giveaway. You have a chance to win Evil Dead Rise on digital by submitting a 5-star review and rating through your podcast app of choice. And then we'll provide a link where you can provide a screenshot of that review and you'll be entered to win. It'll be a great time. All right, y'all ready to get started again?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Rob, I hope you mean that your day is turning around because you're with us. Look at us. You're among friends, Rob. You're among friends. Okay. Are we ready to go in 3, 2, 1?
Sync.
Sync.
Welcome back, folks. You are now entering the spoiler zone for the Taking of Deborah Logan, which has earned a Universal Slash. We have a lot to unpack here, but before we get into the specifics of our ratings, let's go through the kills.
Yeah, well, let's just start off by saying I'm pretty sure we only have like 2 kills in this one. We have Henry Desjardins, which technically happens off screen, and we see his remains. And then we have Sheriff Linda Tweed, who was shot to death by Deborah Logan. So we do know that Henry had also killed some girls. Like, what was it, like 3 or 4?
4, because he wanted Sarah to be
4.
his thief.
That's right. That's right. Right. So for the sake of kill count, though, we're going with 2 because that's what we see in the movie.
Can we just say that the sheriff deserved a little bit better? Normally, you won't find me caring so much about a sheriff in a horror movie. Usually, they're all trash. I have a headcanon where her and Sarah used to be lovers. And they just were about to rediscover each other again, you know?
That was energy. That was
Yeah.
a lot of energy that was being exuded in that film.
That was pining.
Is that
Interesting.
that's pining for sure? Okay,
That's pining
I mean,
for sure.
because that's. I mean, it felt like they were fucking for sure. So that's why I was like, honestly, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of that.
Oh wow. Well, there you have it. We don't have a lot to talk about in kills, but we definitely have a lot to talk about in some maybe undertones of romance that we didn't get to actually see on camera. But
It's all in the subtext.
it's on the subtext, yes. But what we can dive into, since we don't have a lot of kills to unpack, is the creepy moments throughout the film as we dive into favorite visuals and favorite scenes.
Okay, listen, I just got to say here, right now, before I even get into my favorite visual, there's a moment where little old Debbie is at this quiz, this little test, this little cognitive test, where all she has to do is put a block a certain way. She's getting anxious. She's getting very distressed. She's like, there, I tried. I did it. But then all of a sudden, she's ripping flesh from her forearm. And I was like, whoa, Deb, no.
That was the moment that I full on flinched and looked away so fast. And I mean, think about it. It's pretty shocking because we've seen some gory shit, you know?
Mhm.
But that was just not okay. I don't know. That full on had me like shift my whole body in the couch so that I was facing the wall. I didn't even look at the TV.
But like I can't help but feel like she's probably on blood thinners. There's no way that bleeding's good for her. You pull that flesh off, you're getting stitches.
Oh, for sure.
That's an understatement. For me, my favorite visual element was, oh, actually,
Yeah, you
you,
had to go
Sean, you
second.
go first. Never mind.
I have a favorite visual that I can go, and then you can go, Minx.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm tracking now. Yeah, well, first off, stitches is one thing because really you're pulling that flesh off, you need skin grafts for sure. There's no stitches that's making that better. But really, favorite visuals in this film to me, hands down, is just how creepy Deborah Logan looked throughout the film. And it's not like we had a lot of effects really on her throughout the film. It's really just what she was able to do with the looks that she gave, and whether it was the camera angles and the lighting that they used throughout the film. But genuinely just watching some of the scenes or shots of Deborah Logan just looking back at the camera fucking creeped me out. And that was got to be my favorite visuals through the film.
You know how when you're a kid, sometimes it's like if your parent is more disappointed in you than mad, that feels worse. The looks that Debbie was given, ooh, there's a point where Mia is cleaning her nails and she just looks up at her and her eyebrow is arched in such a way. And I thought, man, I would never want to piss this woman off ever.
Oh no, terrible.
That look was haunting as hell. That was the
Yeah.
moment where I was like, "Oh, fuck that. You better run, girl.
No,
Stop
truly.
clicking those nails."
And speaking of running, actually, I found the mobility of Deborah Logan, the zooming of Deborah Logan to be some of my favorite visuals. Particularly, there's a moment where after they're bonding on the porch with the drink, there's a moment where we get a quick glimpse of Debbie just scurrying in the background. Why do I keep calling her Deborah? We're not that familiar. Why do I not call her Deborah? I don't know. We're not that familiar. But she was scurrying in the background and it gave Pearl. It gave Pearl from X specifically. And I just thought, we got a van in this movie too. If I didn't already knew what happened, how great would it have been to have that bloodbath that we got in X?
Oh my god.
I'm not like, basking in it. Again, I say it's a shame that I wasn't more conscious of this movie when we watched it. But I think the reason why that scurrying worked so much for me was because of how they treated their found footage. There was such a great mix in here. There was such a great mix here of the stability of their camera work because they're actually crafting a narrative story. They're crafting a documentary. And there was enough diversity in the type of shots they're using and security camera footage for it to be cohesive. But the way that they handled that and then also played with the depth in the house with that first person perspective from the found footage cameras, absolutely wild. Loved it.
It was very good. I think, especially in found footage films, the camera work is sometimes so sloppy and a little too much. So I will agree they did a great job there. For me, it was a particular shot choice and the way that they delivered this, in my opinion, scene. Chris, you said it was a shot, but I say it's a scene.
It's okay. It's okay to have a moment. I'm not here. It's not about the size of the wave. It's the motion of the ocean. I get it.
Oh. All right.
You are
It's
on.
10:06 Eastern time, and we just hit Hacker Slash After Dark, folks.
What do you mean? She's been skirting around that door for a while. No context channel is like all Chris tonight.
Jesus. Okay.
You're stacked today.
Oh, also, I should point out that I did order Hacker Slash After Dark stickers.
Did you?
I
Oh,
did.
I'm
They're
ready for
small,
that.
but they're cute.
What a time. What a time. So yeah, so in terms of my favorite visual element, there's this particular scene that Deborah is, of course, sitting at the piano and she's just staring into the camera, and it
Yes.
slowly but surely gradually fades to black. That vignette's just circling around her face. But the crazier part, of course, the crazier part is that Cullen is awake now and making noise in the background. He's actually Deborah in the back of our live
Oh,
recording.
no.
You can just see his movement.
Yeah, I'm just
You see his little
slow
face.
push in on Cullen's very human eyes.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
very, very humanized. So what's crazy is that in that scene, Deborah's face briefly changes to that entity. Changes to the entity, and you can see how it's just basically taking control of her mind and her body, but as it's closing in on her face, that choice in terms of the visual element is insane, but more importantly, that scene was so daunting to me, like so insane.
Oh my gosh.
Wow,
Yeah,
that poor guy.
that piano scene was intense. Like that was one of the moments that genuinely creeped me out. I mean, I'm just telling you, like any of those moments where we're seeing Deborah doing whatever the fuck she's doing, looking at you at the camera, whether it's the piano, looking through the mirror, whatever. It's just not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah, actually, my favorite scene comes in another moment where Deborah looks at the camera, but
Mhm.
it's before anything really goes wrong. It's when they first get to the house. Debbie's having second thoughts. She's not feeling good about the situation. And we see a really guarded, intimate moment between her and Sarah where she's comforting her. And Sarah's like, hey, we need the money. She's being practical. Deborah at this point, right? She knows what she's going through, but that's also so much for you to already reconcile in your mind. And it's okay to have that discomfort or those second thoughts. But what I love about this scene is the dynamic that we get between Sarah and Deborah, because when you go back and realize this is a really special moment because she's hugging her and Deborah, is telling Sarah that everything is going to be all right. That's one of the last moments we see her in a position like that. And it's just wild to think about because we have then jump in time and the film crew's coming back in the future. And Deborah has already regressed. And from there, it's just stubborn. But that was one of the last moments of love that also wasn't chaos, because there's also a moment, right, where Deborah is panicking in the bed, and then Sarah is hugging her, and Deborah is like hyperventilating and screaming. And that was one of the last moments of just like being mother and daughter in that dynamic that Sarah had grown up with her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to bum you out.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most effective scenes for me was the scene where who's the dude on the ladder that's installing the camera? Luis, right? He's on the ladder installing the camera, and Deborah's walking around the hallway, and she's going from room to room, standing behind the ladder, staring at him, and then like goes and I guess slams one of the doors behind her. I for sure thought the dude was falling off the ladder and going down the stairs. Like I was ready for that dude to die.
That's so weird because I also had the same feeling when I first watched the movie. However, it's one of those where, of course, she's upset. Man, could you imagine? Like, you're losing your own agency. You find that your mind has suddenly left the premises, so to speak. But then to have strangers in your home, and then to have strangers putting cameras all over your home, that's got to feel so invasive. Like, I can completely understand why she was the way she was in that moment.
Right. And then when you let's unpack that a little bit, because when you think about, and I think we mentioned this way earlier tonight, and when we think about like, did this film feel like it was exploiting Alzheimer's? No. But the feeling that I got watching this film was that they were exploiting this poor old lady with Alzheimer's. So I didn't get the feeling like this would make somebody feel like this was like just not cool to make. Like I don't feel like this is a movie that shouldn't have been made, but I do feel like some of the feelings it evokes out of you is like, man, why are they doing this to this old lady? Like, what's the fucking purpose of this documentary that they're trying to make? Because it doesn't even like feel like they're going anywhere with this. It just feels like they're recording a bunch of crazy shit.
Right.
Go ahead, Binks.
Right. I agree, because that the movie itself isn't necessarily exploitative, but the purpose and the crew themselves don't necessarily approach her with the absolute empathy that they need, that I think Sarah is trying to like explain or advocate for, because as far as the other, crew members, they're kind of like, she's crazy, like it's like super weird, or like, like instantly go into creepy mode, when some of the things that she does at the very beginning that, okay, maybe are creepy, but ultimately are also just a woman who has Alzheimer's and is very paranoid and scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so here's the thing about this. I didn't mind at all the dynamics that we get from Mia, for example. And I thought that was really interesting because obviously this is Mia's uh, thesis project for her, I guess for her PhD or et cetera, her master's, her degree for her education, right? This is necessary. She says to Deborah that it's more than a grade because her grandfather has it. And then obviously we learned very quickly after that that was a lie. But I didn't get the vibe of just, I want to persevere and get this grade and get it done. I didn't get that from her. I got, she's ambitious, but she also wants to genuinely tell the story. And she also wants to educate about the disease. Whereas Gavin was a total prick. Couldn't fucking stand him. I was happy when he was gone. Luis seemed like the, like, I wouldn't say the passive bystander, but the one who just like was there, wasn't going to make a huge deal about it. But Mia being hands-on, Mia trying to console Deborah, Mia trying to clean up Deborah and be able to assist with that. And even though she did keep the project pushing along, I didn't feel like with Mia's intentions that she was exploiting her, especially when there was an exchange of like grant money and etc.
Oh yeah. But then Sarah does mention multiple times, at least a couple times, that she's doing this because they need the money.
Right.
So that's kind of exploiting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, with a certain power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
But I think for at least for Sarah, she needed the money again for Deborah because Deborah
Sure.
was suffering financially and was probably too proud to do other stuff. But
Yeah.
then you got Harris. Get you a ride or die like Harris who's willing to sell his
know.
tractors or a Suburban to
Right.
so they don't have to continue making that documentary.
Definitely.
Wait, but can we talk about Harris really quick? Because although he was great, this is one of the things that I was talking about earlier in terms of disappointments. Who is Harris? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know who Harris is, and right, but I say that in the way that he was supposed to be so important, and when everything goes down with him, you're supposed to kind of feel sad and just like, I don't know what you're supposed to feel. But I was at the point at that point, I was like, oh no, now we're at full throttle. Like, forget everybody else, forget what happens to everybody else. I don't really care. My eyes are locked in on Deborah Logan, and I need to know where she's at all times. And
So
whoever you are, Harris, and whatever happened to you, it feels so bad, so sad. You guys were besties. I don't know. I just.
okay, for me, Harris was Frank from Halloween Ends, laid up in a hotel. Nope. He was Frank from Halloween Kills, laid up in the hospital bed next to Lori, and he was just there to move the plot along in some ways. Harris served as the vessel. Like, obviously, he was a conspirator, right? He had the secret with Deborah the entire time. He
Yeah.
knew what the deal was, but also probably in some kind of level of fondness, right? Cared so much for Deborah and also cared for Sarah's safety, just became part of this family and always wanted to be there and help take care of the situation. And he was just there to reveal the secret.
Sure. But like they do all of this effort throughout the film to build this character of Harris, right? They show that he's like an ally to Deborah, like he's a friend, a neighbor, a conspirator, whatever. And then it just fizzles out. Like we get the reveal and then it just fizzles out. And then like he becomes unimportant, basically.
I mean, let the women shine.
I'm not opposed to that at all. I'm just saying they do all this work and then they don't follow through with it. It just like that's what I'm saying with the ending. Like they they do all of this work and then they go in this direction and it just fizzles out.
Yeah, because there's never really the accountability or acknowledgement of what happened with Henri Desjardins, right? There's none of that. Like, at no point does it come out, from what I understand, damn, Deborah really murdered this man and buried his remains in the backyard because, again, the sheriff was killed, right? And who else are going to find out about this? They have enough blood on their hands in the present day. If there was that element that was addressed, I could understand that, right? Some accountability on both ends. But truly, Harris was just there to give you that last puzzle piece that fell under the coffee table that no one was going to fucking find because no one wanted to get on their hands and knees and find it. That's it. And I was okay with that. I wasn't necessarily down with his, I'm just going to shoot up a van and just shoot into the house, you know? That was a little bit weird. But, get you a ride or die like Harris. That's a real friend. God damn it, Binks.
You said hands and knees, okay?
Listen, this is different to those who subscribe to heterosexuality. Anyway,
I guess so.
this is a totally innocent statement on my side.
You're right. No. Go.
Let's fucking keep it pushing. Jesus, I got nothing.
Sorry, I had to. No, I can see how that's the role that Harris fits into. I just think that all the other supporting characters, God damn it, don't put that face. However, I feel like all of the supporting characters really, that is their purpose, is just to do the small, minute things that are necessary. Like one of them needs to be the one that is like, finally says, okay, this is fucking crazy. I'm freaking leaving. Bye all. While simultaneously also being the asshole of the movie. Like they fit the tropes so like blatantly, and yet we're still kind of I don't want to say forgettable because they did it really well. I think the acting was good. I just like forgettable in the sense that they were so massively outshined that they fell by the wayside. And I think like when I think of Renfield, for example, this is kind of how I felt about Renfield, where obviously Nick Cage is like the shining star and everybody else like is kind of like in the shadows underneath him. That didn't, well, quite literally and figuratively.
What we do in the shadows.
Oh, also that. Look at that. No, but I think that in that movie, right, I talked about how that's what kind of killed it for me a little bit. In this one, didn't feel that way. So it's interesting how the characters supported, and this is silly, right? But they supported in just the way that they needed to, even though it was just filler. It almost feels like just filler.
The ensemble was ensembling.
Ensembling. You know what? Maybe it's that.
Yeah. Let me tell you how happy I was, though, to see that the lesbian stereotype was alive and well, because the second they pull up to that house and we see Sarah in this flannel shirt tucked into those blue denim jeans, I said, that's my girl.
Oh my
and
gosh.
then, hold on, it's confirmed before it's even confirmed when they go into Sarah's childhood bedroom, and she was a terrific ball player. There's a softball glove with the ball still in it, and I was like, again, got him, gal. There it is.
Got him.
Got him. Yep. Had you pegged from a mile away. And then she reveals that she was in the shed, you know, kissing up on Annie, and got sent away to boarding school, which is very sad. But even then, right, like the dynamic between the two of them, and to know how much pain and heartache Sarah was going through in her life with Deborah. But then Deborah being a single mom and doing everything she did to provide for Sarah, knowing that in a way she still is not very cool with it, right? Like it's giving tolerance. It's giving, I guess, I know. But the fact that she still refers to her as her lady friend shows you all you need to know about this, right? And Deborah seems like a fine enough, nice enough person, but it looks like Sarah has the understanding of who Deborah is and is not going to try to change her. She is going to just move away and live her own life, but come back to take care of it. And it looks like they're both at peace with that relationship, which I can appreciate.
Yeah. It's when you think of all the other characters, because I agree. I think between Deborah and Sarah, that's the performance of the whole film for me. The supporting, and I agree, Binks. I think the supporting cast and the rest of the cast, rather, they did just enough to be successful. And it's not that they gave bad performances. I think to what you were speaking to, Binks, I think that like they just weren't prevalent on camera enough because it's a found footage film, so they aren't there, they're behind the camera, and that's the whole point, right? So you hear some dialogue, you do some that kind of stuff, and I think from that aspect and what they were given and what they had to work with, I think they did a great job in what the role they in just playing the role that they had to play, right? Sarah, for me, man, I gotta say, like the performance that she gave, like allowed me to feel a great deal of empathy for what she was going through and what she had to deal with throughout the film. So like there was a lot of ups and downs. I think she just gave us a lot there. So I thought it was really good. And Deborah, for me, like I don't know, like anyone that can play that role, that can go from, you know, portraying like I'm here to I'm not here, and then going into like aggressiveness slash maybe possessed is, you know, hats off to you.
And let me tell you, it's the power of being on a very, very prevalent soap opera, All My Children, because you have to have range. You got
Mhm.
to know. At any point in time, one day you're one thing, the next day you're dead, the next day you're revived, the
Next
next
day, you're
day
an evil
you've got
twin.
an evil twin. Right? Did we both say evil twin at the same time?
We
Of course
did.
we did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there you go. You've got to have range, and she came with it, guns blazing. So I give her that. Now I want to take it back super fast to Sarah though, because Chris, I can't believe that you have not referenced this. And if I'm about to enlighten you, that'll be honestly quite hilarious. I looked up, obviously, everyone's favorite pastime. You see people in a movie, you're like, gotta look up their IMDb. I need to know every single movie that they've ever been in. So when I saw Sarah, who's played by Anne Ramsey, I looked at my friend and I said, "Where do we know her from?" You know, and so we looked on IMDb, and he goes, "Oh, you know, she was on Dexter, she was on House one episode, and then, of course, says the L word." And in my mind, I was like, "Well, can't wait for Chris to bring that up." And you haven't yet.
Why do I need to? You're a good ally.
Thanks. Thanks. I saw it and I was like, well, I knew I kind of like she was giving L word energy, all right?
Yeah, did you see
She
the
was
hands
giving
on that
L word
woman?
energy already.
Big
I don't know
lesbian hand energy.
Okay, well, I don't know how to I don't know how to figure that out.
Listen, I'm going to take you through a
The
session.
lesbian hands, is that where we're going down?
Apparently
Oh,
that's a thing, Sean. Did you know
it's a
that? I didn't know
science.
that.
No, I know we've had this conversation.
I've
I'm just
literally
saying
never
that's
been wrong. I've never been wrong.
Okay.
To this
Well,
day, Paris sends me photos of random hands. I always get it right.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
I cannot. But the
It's
point
my
is, look,
superpower.
I wasn't able to distinguish based on the hand because obviously I don't have that skill set. However, I looked at her, I said, well, maybe I know like where she's from. And then when the L word came up, I specifically said, well, Chris is definitely going to bring that up.
Why do I need to?
And then you didn't. And then I did. As an ally, I brought it up. And so I've done my due diligence.
I'm holding space for you and demanding that you arrive with me in this moment. Binks, don't worry. I'm going to put you through like a lesbian hand boot camp and you'll be an expert in no time.
A lesbian hand.
Is
boot
this to
camp.
help? Is this to help? I don't know. Who am I helping with that information?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Being a better wing woman. The L word
Okay.
did come back in the form of L word Generation Q. There was also the real L word, which was just awful. The L word honestly never really died. Let's be real. If you thought that it died, ask your local lesbians. They're living their own L words. Except for me. I'm a
Ask
lone
your
wolf gay.
Ask your local lesbians. Incredible. That's amazing.
Here we are.
Anyways, that being said, I just wanted to bring it up because we're talking about range. Deborah Logan, you know, Jill Larson, range because of a soap opera, but then we also have Anne Ramsey, I mean, the L word from when my cousin would make me watch like the 2 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes every now and then. Um, it was like the lesbian soap opera. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it definitely gives that energy. So I was like range with on both sides.
Yeah.
It's
Some might
fantastic.
say it's the spectrum. You're welcome.
Yikes.
Listen, I know that
I
we've talked
can't.
about how amazing Deborah is. I get it. Allow me to just bring this in again. The deterioration of Deborah Logan is so hard to swallow. And to see her go from this strong, caring mother to slowly withering away, losing a grasp on what's happening around her, it's painful. But let me tell you, for as ensembling the ensemble was that you talk about with the supporting cast, my favorite line in the movie comes to us from Mia, and it's when she compares Deborah's mind to the switchboard she operated. That shit was deep. That shit was powerful.
Yeah. It's the reminding of, reminding the person with Alzheimer's of things is one that was very triggering to me for sure, because that's like I would say, as a loved one of someone who has Alzheimer's, that's the struggle that you kind of have to go through constantly. But internally, you also battle whether you should even remind them or not, is the thing. At least that's personal to me. Like, you know what I mean? Because what happens after that is one of two things. Either they play it off like, oh, interesting, and that's pretty rare, or they realize that they've forgotten something that is clearly so obvious and important to them, and then they panic, or they,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it spirals into that realm, which you can kind of see that a little bit with Deborah. She was a little surprised or kind of confused,
Mhm.
and then realizing, well, yep, that was the Alzheimer's, like if
Yeah.
it's another person, it's another entity, clearly, like she's being possessed by Alzheimer's, but also by this guy, right? So that's the Alzheimer's that took hold of her in that moment where she forgot something that was so important to her.
Yeah, and this is really the thing that was kind of going through my mind when that moment was happening, right? And it was when they were specifically talking about Germany, and Deborah's so confidently saying, "No, I've never been. It's always been a regret of mine." And then Sarah pushes and pushes and pushes. No, Mom, you remember. You remember. Granted, this isn't that long. Like, this is on the house tour. This is still the beginning of the movie. It hasn't been that long since they even first met. And to see how quickly she's degrading is really, really hard to swallow, right? It's really painful. But you have these moments where you have to wonder how much more harm is being caused in that moment. You know what I mean? I think that's like that. I know Binks, you said that's like that personal debate of do I say it or do I not? And I think when you look at how far Deborah gets at some points, it's like, ooh, you poor thing, you poor thing. Like it's a no-win situation. It's completely no-win.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess you got to wonder though, like, did Deborah like become possessed potentially after, getting this disease, or did she, you know what I mean? Like, when did this start?
Oh, what came
Because
first, the
is it
chicken
because
or
she's
the egg?
weak from the disease, or like did this always be a thing because this body or these remains were in her fucking attic?
Right. So interesting
Well, they
question.
weren't. She moved them.
Yeah. Interesting question. So I think there's the element of this, right, where they suggest that the little girl is more susceptible and he's able to latch onto her because she's weak and she has cancer, right? So yeah, not sure. Chicken or the egg? Alzheimer's or the
Interesting.
demon? Maybe
it's
they arrived
interesting
at the
to
same
think about.
time.
You never know. We'll never know.
Literally never.
Quite literally, never.
Let me tell
Is
you
there anybody
though,
else?
I don't have anything for characters. I'm ready to go into worst part.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. And let me tell you though, that obviously we talk about Henri, the demon, by far the worst part of this movie. If they had really stuck to Alzheimer's and then some vague demonic possession energy, that would have been just fine enough. the lore that we get, while not uncool, I think it's pretty cool. It did a weird take with the snake of it all, with the Deborah Logan unhinging her jaw and swallowing another human. You know, like cool in a cave. I know that it scares a lot of people. I suppose it's effective, but for me, it was just the specific execution of that lore. It really detracted from the rest of the movie. It was really riding high and then kind of tripped at the finish line.
Okay. Yes. That I don't know. That specific scene of her like trying to eat the head of that kid, like, I'm sorry. Maybe it was effective to others. It was very silly looking to me. It threw me off. I feel like the worst part to me in this film, honestly, is probably the reveal, right? I know we talked about it earlier. You kind of mentioned it. I just didn't care for the supernatural path that they chose to take, like with the possession or the spirit coming back to try to finish whatever the hell he was trying to finish in the beginning. I said it before. I think less is more here. And I think it really would have been much more effective if they just left you wondering, was that some demonic possession or was that just the horrors of Alzheimer's? That would have been a much more effective film for me. I don't think they needed to add any of that other bullshit. Like they could have just made this a found footage film, trying to make a documentary, filming some fucking crazy shit. Deborah Logan, Jill Larson's performance, and it would have been fucking gold. Not that this ruined the movie, because I slashed it. But if you were making a remake and it was going to be better and I was behind the camera, this is what the fuck it's going to be.
Interesting. Okay, so I have some questions though. I'm going to pose some questions before I get into my worst part then, because so are you saying that removing just the whole specific like snake and like sacrifice situation, but then how would you justify some of the other things that happened earlier on in the film, like her jumping onto the counter and that? So you're saying like leaving that stuff ambiguous?
100%.
Okay. Okay, I see.
Less is more. You don't need to know all that. You just need to know that it's fucked up and you're questioning yourself.
Okay. Interesting. It's giving almost like a little bit It Follows then, but not because I mean, I guess you do see what It Follows does, right? Or the demon in It Follows
Mhm.
does when it takes over these beings or just like, just appears. But it is still like that ominous, like lingering of what are they capable of? What are they going to do to me? So, okay. I don't know, guys. I actually like enjoyed the snake being thing. I think that's when I was really fucking like, whoa, that is scary as all hell. Just that entire ending. I think it was most tense feeling, the most like, what in the whole hell has happened to her? What is taking over at this point? But I guess that's where the supernatural and like that kind of stuff that I enjoy came into play and what I was expecting out of the whole movie. And quite frankly, I was rather like at that point I was like, I want to feel this about this movie versus the reality of Alzheimer's and staring at her and the things that happened to her. So I guess maybe there's that. But I would say that the worst part, I think I've talked a little bit ad nauseum. I guess if I had to, would be like the supporting characters and like and all that because they were a little bit filler. Um, but if I was just, I'd say another one. Honestly, the worst part was how many times I had to pause this film and what it literally did to me. That was not pleasant at all. And it almost reminded me, and I think at this point, this is like a bit we've got going on in the show, but it reminded me of how you must have felt with Skinamarink or people that like watch Skinamarink and how like visceral it was coming out of that experience and what like it left them thinking. Because I am sure that if I had this played in my like at my friend's house and not like they don't know anyone that has Alzheimer's, the person that they know is my grandmother, so that's it, you know. I'm sure that they wouldn't have felt the things that I did.
Hmm.
And it's not that the movie is like like in your face crazy about all the Alzheimer's things. They are, but in the most subtle things when she was hyperventilating, that was the most difficult thing I've ever had to see, honestly, in a long freaking time. That was so difficult. Like things like that was so visceral that it's hard to say it's the worst part because it's the best part in a way, right? That's the point of the fucking movie. I just didn't enjoy the 24 hours afterwards. Let's just put it that way.
Here
Yeah.
I
Didn't
was.
enjoy it at all.
Here I was thinking you were going to say the worst part was her being a parcel mouth, literally.
Oh, nice.
A French parcel mouth.
Wow, you know,
Yes.
I really dug deep into that one time I watched all the Harry Potter movies to unlock that for you. I hope you
Good for
appreciated
you.
it.
Good for you. I
It was
love that.
timing. It was great timing. You had to do that at the time that you did to bring it out for this particular vote. Look at that.
Sure did. And let me tell you, I've had my fill on this movie. I think if I ever revisit it again, it's going to have to be a very long time from now. And even then, I imagine that I will have either potentially gone through this again or maybe be going through it myself. So maybe just not, actually, when I think about the math left on my life. I think I'm good.
And it's funny because I initially told my friend, I said, I am never watching this again. And he was like, really? Never watching it again? So I mentioned it earlier. Like it's one of those things where I'll watch this movie again, I'm sure, in years' time when I've taken a moment to like let my current situation at home kind of dissipate and like settle down and the inevitable will happen. And after some time after that, I'm sure I will find this movie again and then I'll be a little more down to watch it, you know? But right now, anytime soon, not going to happen. Absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen this at least twice now. It's not something I'm going to purposely seek out, but I would watch it maybe if someone requested it or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm good for now. There's just no need to watch it anytime soon.
Well, I think it can stay right where it is then, and we can enjoy it from afar because there you have it, folks. The Taking of Deborah Logan, as voted on and selected by our patrons, has earned a universal slash, and I don't think we need to revisit it anytime soon. We've certainly had a robust discussion here, but it doesn't end here by any means.
We want to know what you think. Curious if you would allow a camera crew into your home to record such personal and private things that are going on in your family life.
In this economy, maybe.
Maybe, I guess so. To make a buck, I guess do what you want, but I am curious. So please let us know, and you can join in on the conversation by hanging out with us for free in our Discord. Click the link in our show notes to sign up.
If you've enjoyed listening to our minds slowly leave the premises, consider becoming one of our patrons. Visit patreon.com/hackerslash to enjoy more of the show with early access, extended episodes, bonus content, found footage, and live shows, minus the found footage.
We'll see you next time, folks. And remember, the story of Alzheimer's is never about one person.
Wow. That's just the fucking icing on top of this shitty fucking cake.
What a beautiful way to end that, Sean. Honestly, great job.
That was incredible. I erased that quote, and that was fantastic.
Terrific. Wow. Dignity in this economy? Never, spooky bitch. Never. Wow. What a time. What a place. Bings, how you feeling?
I'm glad this is over, guys.
Yeah. Rob, guess what? This shit right here, this is the hacker slash found footage. Actually, I do have a YouTube video that is hacker slash found footage. Wait one. I'll pull it
Nice.
up.
I've enjoyed reviewing it with you all and everything, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But man, oh man, this one was a tough one. Was not. If this had maybe even been January, I think I would have been a little bit better. But
yeah.
you know, I will say though, timing is everything. If this had been the episode that I came back to, that would have been a no for me. But it was
Yeah.
Repo, and
It was
that's why we're doing so much better.
Listen, you did a good job. So
Thanks.
it's all good.
We're thriving, but it was a good. I expected it to get a universal slash though, because I figured at the very least, even if we've all experienced this, like it was still a good movie, you know. And I had a long discussion with my friend about like ultimately horror movies, they're gonna get into the nitty gritty of things and like cover some real tough stuff to watch.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean you should shy away from it. Like, right, like Chris was saying, this was like cathartic for her in a way, like you can't just like shy away from stuff that's very tough. And I think maybe if I had seen Alzheimer's in the description, I probably would have been like, ooh, I'm gonna catch y'all later.
Yeah.
But it needed to be watched. And I did it. I'm okay. Like, it's a movie. I'll be fine. I'm gonna be all right.
You did it, and I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
And I'm proud of all of you out there, humans on the internet, who have been watching us this whole time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being vulnerable with us. Remember that
Yeah.
you can give us a 5-star rating and review to enter a chance to win Evil Dead Rise. Hopefully, you're not going to give us another one that says we overthink horror. And if you do, oh well. Here we are, still overthinking it. You can stay tuned to the events tab in our Discord community for our next live stream. Our next live stream will be back to the regular audio live streaming for our patrons. And dear listener, if you have not been a patron yet, you enjoyed this, you had a good time, I think you're going to want to be a patron. These are always really fun. But
Absolutely.
until then, folks, ta-ta.
Adios.
Bye.